This is Glow in the Dark Radio. The science fiction podcast, with original independent science fiction, written and performed by Mike Luoma, with music by Kevin MacLeod. The Vatican Assassin Trilogy and The Adventures of Alibi Jones by Mike Luoma are available in ebook, trade paperback, and audiobook wherever you find your books online. Get links and details at glowinthedarkradio.com. This is the Science Fiction Podcast, Glow in the Dark Radio. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma, and I've got a standalone short story on this week's episode, Alibi Jones and the Wishing Stone. It's a great week for new listeners with this standalone short story. And if you are listening for the first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy the story. This is the audio adaptation of what was originally a comic book short story, which has now been adapted into a prose version as well. So it was originally in The Adventures of Alibi Jones, issue number 2, as a comic book story with art by Mesha, and inks by Bill Nichols, and colors by Ken Letier. Now, the prose version originally appeared in Alibi Jones' 6 short stories, but each of these has now been reprinted in the larger collection, so you can find the comic version in the Chronological Omnibus and the prose version in the Chronological Omnibus, which is what we're featuring ongoing on the podcast. Now, in this short story, Alibi Jones heads to the ruins of a lost civilization on an abandoned planet in search of an item requested by Finder, a stone which is said to grant wishes. We'll head out looking for the Wishing Stone with Alibi Jones, coming up on Glow in the Dark Radio. In book news, a reminder I'm part of the Green Mountain Book Festival with author John Scalzi featured. That's coming up in Burlington on Saturday, October 18th at the Fletcher Free Library and Phoenix Books. I'll be a part of a panel on humor in science fiction. That's coming up again October 18th. They have a page, a site. Check out the link in the show notes for more on the Green Mountain Book Festival, or just look it up. And I've been mentioning I've got something in the works where I'm going to be pitching my stories, my books, and my documentary to a TV and movie production company. That didn't happen this week. It was supposed to be on Monday, but I've been postponed, so my meeting is now coming up next week, and I will let you know if anything comes up out of that. And once again, a thank you to patrons who help keep everything going here, help keep things running, help keep the podcast going. If you want to become a patron and do the same, and help crowdfund Glow in the Dark Radio, just head over to patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio, and you can do so for $2, $5, or $10 a month. And at the very least, you'll get some episodes early. I do try to get patrons early episodes. Like this one. This is early for patrons. Once again, if you're interested, just go to patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio. Up next, we get into Alibi Jones and the Wishing Stone on Glow in the Dark Radio.
The Flesh Pulp Podcast. 3 to 10 minutes of fiction brought to you thrice weekly. 200 miles below the surface of the earth, at the terminus of a series of long-sealed caverns and interconnected shrines, under the shadow of the eternally bleeding eye, there is a crippled wreck of a man writing tales, stories of a dimension engulfed in madness. He is writing them of you. Find them all at fleshpulp.com or search for it on iTunes.
Now, here's Alibi Jones and the Wishing Stone, part of the Adventures of Alibi Jones Chronological Omnibus, and the Adventures of Alibi Jones Comicological Omnibus, on Glow in the Dark Radio.
There it is.
Alibi Jones's voice echoes from an open comm on the empty bridge of his cruiser. His ship hovers about a meter above an airless alien plane. The cruiser's side airlock door is open. A guideline snakes out of the door and down across the rocky, craggy surface of the planet. A pea-sized white star provides stark light from where it hangs on the horizon above the jagged teeth of gray mountains in the distance. Closer by, the dead sun casts ink-black shadows across boulders, mounds, and ancient ruins on the surface, remnants of a once great civilization that long ago fell to rubble and ruin. Alibi Jones, trailing his guideline, has made his way through one of the more intact old structures, this one built into the base of a cliff. Surrounded by the alien ruins, he stands at the back of an inner room, spotlit by the light on his spacesuit helmet. Stashed in a deep alcove built into the wall of the room is a glowing alien artifact. The artifact looks like an oval rock, almost a large egg, covered and veined by arcane alien technology. It generates its own eerie, greenish light.
The Wishing Stone, Finder called it,
Alibi says to himself.
Ancient alien tech. Supposed to grant wishes or something.
Alibi reaches for the Wishing Stone. 4 days ago, Alibi ran into the strange character known only as Finder in a cafe on Ceres Central Station. Ceres Central is one of the Solar Alliance's largest colonies, a place where humans and alien races mingle and trade. You might see a bony, angular Flaze or a cat-like Dakur among the humans. The station sits on the largest asteroid in the belt beyond Mars's orbit, and serves several commercial interests mining the belt for resources. It's also the home of the Third Fleet of the Solar Alliance Interplanetary Force, the SAIF. The colony is run by Governor Anita Capituna, Alibi's foster mother, and the former leader, the former prime representative of the Solar Alliance. Alibi lives on the distant human colony of Cat's Eye, but his aunt and business often bring him through Ceres Central. With dim-colored lighting and pop music playing in the background, the cafe was really more like a bar. A group of Dakur kept to themselves in the corner. A Flaze sipped at something orange at the bar. Next to the Flaze sat Finder, a shaggy, hippie type, totally out of his element here on Ceres Central. His long hair and beard fit in fine back home on Earth, on the ocean, at Mar del Plata. Finder was at least dressed properly for Ceres Central, wearing a brown and green one-piece jumpsuit, sort of the standard-issue clothes for space travel. He didn't look comfortable when Alibi spotted him. Alibi had heard some freaky-looking guy had been asking around for him. "Finder?" Alibi asked as he approached the man. "Strange seeing you away from your beach, and dressed." "Yeah, funny," Finder replied. "Look, I need your help." "My help? That's even stranger," Alibi laughed. "Right," Finder said. He looked like he was struggling to pay attention. "Anyway, you're good at finding stuff. You found that, thing before," Finder explains to Alibi. "Right." Alibi looked around at the other patrons of the bar before looking back at Finder. "The, thing." Finder looked around the bar. Instead of returning his gaze to Alibi, he looked back at the bar and spoke. "Well, now there's a new thing I'm looking for. My instincts tell me you're the one who can track it down. Finder turned back to Alibi. Will you help me find it? This time the thing was called the Wishing Stone. Finder said they took the name from a popular old story. But the thing itself was an alien artifact, unheard of by most of the population. Now, after following directions and instructions provided by Finder, Alibi finds himself poised to touch the Wishing Stone.
And here it is. Finder's gonna owe me big. Should I touch it?
Alibi touches the stone. Something begins to coalesce in a cloud in the air next to it. The form of a man is appearing.
Be careful what you wish for?
In that lightless room, in the ruins of the alien structure, the leftover of some lost civilization, Alibi in his spacesuit comes face to face with an apparition of his father, Bernard Campion, B.C., the Vatican assassin. B.C. is dressed in black and wears a priest's collar. As an apparent spirit, he does not seem to need a spacesuit.
I don't think I was wishing for this,
Alibi says. It's alien tech, kid. What'd you expect? B.C. asks. Alibi tries to scratch his head. His spacesuit is not cooperating.
I'm not calling you Dad,
Alibi tells the apparition.
What should I call you?
Why not B.C.? Everybody does, or did.
Still do,
Alibi says.
I'm Alibi. Alibi Jones.
I know, B.C. says, smiling. Silence passes between them. Alibi looks down and realizes he's now holding the Wishing Stone in his hands. He looks back up at B.C.
Maybe I do wish we could have spent more time together.
We're together now, B.C. points out. And you know, everything is really a lot more together than you might think. Don't you remember the last time we spoke?
That really wasn't a dream, huh?
Alibi shakes his head inside his helmet. In his mind, he sees two heavy wooden doors, closed shut and padlocked. BC taught him the trick in what Alibi thought was a dream, but he was later able to use the focusing image to block an invasion of his mind by a telepathic enemy.
You helped me keep Azimet out of my mind. The double doors trick, it worked. That sure felt real.
It was. Just as this is, no matter the use of some alien artifact. For better or worse, there's a lot of me in you, kiddo. And it was about when you were conceived that I was first discovering my mind was capable of doing, well, let's just call it more. That encounter with Azimet you had. Sensations you picked up when you touched certain objects. Touching that wishing stone and having me show up. That's the start of it. You just don't realize it.
I do now, thanks to you,
Alibi says.
So, what do I do?
BC tries to be sympathetic. You've got to figure that out for yourself, BC says. Just how it works, sorry. Alibi doesn't know what to say. He's disappointed and sad, and BC is starting to fade a bit. The wishing stone may be wearing off.
You know, I can still remember when you died.
Alibi says, honest and heartfelt with the spirit of his father.
Something like that doesn't go away.
You were so little then, BC says, surprised. Still hate your mother for it, don't you? Don't. Ruth was confused. Times were hard on her. She's not herself anymore.
Hey, you're fading,
Alibi says, alarmed. He looks down at the wishing stone. When he looks back up, BC is almost gone. There's just an outline of him now. Guess the wishing stone wears off, huh? BC notes.
I miss you,
Alibi says. Glad we got to chat, Alibi. Besides, I am here. Just not here. Does that make sense?
Not really,
Alibi admits. When Alibi looks back down at the rock, it's no longer glowing. Your mother is still here, Alibi, BC's fading voice says. You should go visit her sometime. Goodbye, Alibi.
Bye, Dad,
Alibi says. Alibi follows the guideline and carries the artifact back aboard his ship. He sits down at the pilot's controls, with the wishing stone and a clear specimen container on the floor of the bridge behind him. The wishing stone, huh? Alibi says. Guess it works. Finder will be happy. Alibi thinks about the last thing BC said. It's funny. I've faced aliens, monsters, mind control machines, all sorts of scary stuff. But the last thing in the world I want to face is my so-called real mother. That was Alibi Jones and the Wishing Stone on Glow in the Dark Radio. Alibi Jones got his wish, evidently, whether he knew it or not. He got to speak to his dead father, BC, the Vatican assassin. Now Alibi will drop the stone off with Finder and be on his way to Ceres Central to visit his Aunt Anita, which happens on our next episode, another standalone short story. Alibi Jones, About Time, which, although it is standalone, it is the beginning of the Time War of the Devrisium, so there are a bunch of related short stories that follow. If this is your first time listening, I hope you've enjoyed the story. More adventures with Alibi Jones are on the way. The next episode will feature another standalone short, as I mentioned, that introduces a series of short stories that make up the Time War of the Devrisium, as the adventures of Alibi Jones' Chronological Omnibus continues on Glow in the Dark Radio. You know, if you are a new listener and you want to go back, you can do that too. I mean, this is episode 817. I've featured all of Vatican Assassin and all of the adventures of Alibi Jones up to this point on the podcast. It's all there, free to listen. Recapping my book news, I'll be part of the Green Mountain Book Festival coming up October 18th in Burlington. And you can get more details on that by following the link in the show notes or looking up Green Mountain Book Festival or looking for it on my Glow in the Dark Radio Substack. I've got a little piece, a little article written up there. No news on the movie and TV adaptation front because that meeting got postponed, but if I do get any news, I will pass it along. And once again, if you want to help support the show, get episodes early and other free stuff along the way, just head to patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio, and you can become a patron and support us for $2, $5, or $10 a month. Again, that's at patreon.com/glowinthedarkradio. And that is all for this week. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma. Thank you again for listening to Glow in the Dark Radio. Glow in the Dark Radio. This podcast presentation is copyright 2025 by Michael F. Luoma and is protected under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License, CC by NCND 4.0. Music by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his work at Incompetech.com. Mike's books are available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook, wherever you find books online. Get links and more details at glowinthedarkradio.com and mikeluoma.com. This has been a presentation of Glow in the Dark Radio.